Welcome to the Everyday Epigenetics, raw, real, relatable podcast. We're your hosts, Susan Robbins, certified epigenetic human performance coach,
and Kate King, licensed psychotherapist, board-certified art therapist, and award-winning author. Together, we bring two perspectives, two styles, and one shared passion for epigenetics.
On this podcast, we delve into topics such as environment, nutrition, fitness, mindset, social dynamics, and trauma as they pertain to epigenetic expression in a way that's relatable to everyone.
We recognize that everyone's needs are unique. There are no one-size-fits-all solutions for your mind, body, and heart. The true magic lies within you.
So if you're ready to create a radiant life through epigenetics and reclaim your authentic self, then buckle up. Here we go. Welcome to the Everyday Epigenetics, raw, real, relatable podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Susan Robbins, and I am here with the lovely
Kate King.
So we are doing a series every week of a little short podcast, just to give a little extra quick info for people that maybe don't have the time to listen to something long, but to get some great information all around lifestyle and environment and how it relates to our genetic expression, as the podcast is. Today, this week, we actually did one on parts. Was it Kate?
Work. So we did parts work.
I just totally, my brain just went, oh, it's been a week.
So we did parts work from an internal family systems perspective, which is a therapeutic modality that I use a lot with my clients and in my practice. And I mentioned briefly on that topic that I have an art therapy directive that I call parts cards. And so I wanted to use this opportunity for this little mini to teach you how to make your own parts cards. This is basically my own blend between art therapy and internal family systems. So just as a really quick reminder, the parts within us are the aspects of ourselves that have fractaled off as life did the life thing, and we had to adapt and change and grow. They're not always negative parts. Sometimes they're really adaptive. They manage your life. It could be like your highly efficient part, your perfectionist part. Sometimes they're more detrimental. It can be like the addicted part or the aggressive part, things like that. So I have a treat for you today. For those of you who are watching visually, I have my own parts cards here. And as you can see, I'm holding them up. There's, I don't know, 50 of them or so. And
it's like CDs.
Yeah, they look like old school CDs, but these are just flat pieces of paper. I like to cut them in a circle because I like that shape. You don't have to do a circle. You can do a rectangle, a square, a triangle, anything you want, any size you want. And I like to use collage material because when you have images from magazines or from online, I even like to have a pre-cut collage box where I go through stuff when I'm watching Netflix at night and I just kind of like pull out images. And so when I look through my collage box, I don't get stuck with like reading the articles and get distracted. So the great thing about collage for art therapy is you don't have to think about the imagery at all. All you have to do is project. So if you're really aware that there's been a part of you lately that's been coming to the forefront, maybe it's a very controlling part and you're like, gosh, what is this part that wants to control everything, that feels really anxious when things are out of my control? All you have to do is flip through your collage box and find images that resonate, that feel like, yeah, that looks like control. So it doesn't have to be literal. It doesn't have to be like a person. It could be a really tightly braided wire that feels like that it resonates with tension. It could be a certain color scheme that feels like very rigidly controlled. There could be an image of two people where one person is very clearly controlling the other. So you just collect 5 or 6 of these images and you compile them on the front side of your card. This is not a great example because it's watercolor. So you can do other materials as well, whatever you resonate with. If you want to use drawing or watercolor and create something from your mind, that's absolutely acceptable too. Here's an example of one that has a lot of collage on it, like 5 or 6 different types. And then on the back side of the parts card, I write in second or third person about what this part is. So it would be like, I am the control part, or in third person, it would be like the control part lives down the street. And you write a little bit of a character description in a story, get creative with it, get silly with it. Some of you know the This part has mismatching socks and can never get their act together and never get out the door in time. So you're personifying the part in two ways, both in visual imagery and in writing. And because of that, you're creating a really robust experience of that part. And then you have a map of all of your parts. Once you create multiple cards, you can say, okay, so the perfectionist part and the control part are both around a lot of the time at the same time. So we're going to put them both on the countertop together and have a dialogue between the two of them and look at them and see how they correlate to each other. So that's the directive. I don't know, Susan, do you want to jump in with any questions?
No, keep going.
Okay. So I picked out two to just share. And for those of you who are listening only by audio, I'll do my best to just explain them to you. One of them is an adaptive manager part, which I call the balancing act. And so this is a collage that has several different images on it. It has a woman sitting on the floor balancing a pot of tea on top of her head. There's like running horses happening. And this is just exemplifying how it feels internally to be in that balancing part where it's like, I have to maintain perfect balance. If I drop anything, then I'm going to drop everything. And my entire life feels like it's balancing on that. And I'll just read you.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
For the people that are the perfectionists out there saying, what if this doesn't look perfect? Can you please tell them that it doesn't matter
Yeah.
how
So
to deal with this? Because some people will get super stressed out that this doesn't look exactly like yours look or how it quote should look.
So I would say create a card for your perfectionist part. If that part feels like it's coming to the forefront, and allow that perfectionist part to get some visual representation, because this is not meant to be perfect. It's meant to be meaningful. And oftentimes I find when people use collage, they have less perfectionist tendencies coming up because they're not drawing it. It's not
They're
coming.
not drawing it.
Yeah.
That's
So
exactly
like
what I thought
it's
too.
a little bit easier to use these projective images. If your perfectionist part is really dominant, then you need a card for that part so that you can work with it. So I'm just going to read, I have a lot written here for the balancing act. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just to give you a sense of how we write about these parts.
If people could see that, they'd be like, we're going to be here longer than 11
You know,
minutes.
I know. I'm a writer, I'm an author. I like to write.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to read the first couple sentences of the balancing act so you can really get a sense of how this part is personified, okay? The balancing act. If I just remain still, control every major and minor muscle and tendon with utmost care, nothing will drop. People passing by, some of them marvel, others gawk. I prefer those that admire the controlled skill I display in my craft. Never mind the shooting pain in my skull or spine, or the sad truth that I haven't so much as sipped this fragrant tea for having to remain in balance. And then it goes on and on from there. So this part is describing what it's like to be her. Okay, so here's another part that gives you a little bit more of an abstract sense. I call this part the fox. This is a part that came up for me when I was doing EMDR therapy and exploring some of my own trauma, and the fox kind of like the imagery that came forward as a perpetrator. And so I created this part to hold that energy of the fox. So for those of you who are just audio, it does have a little bit of imagery of some type of wild cat. There's sort of dark colors, torn edges. There's a abandoned building that says "My heart is missing" in written on the side of the wall. So those are some of the images. And
And eyes. That's the
I,
first thing that caught my eye, were
mhm.
the close up of two eyes at the bottom, like peering out of a slot.
Yes. And on the back, this one doesn't have as much writing. It's a little bit different. So these don't all have to be the same. So this one says, the fox, sneering and jeering, he spits. He hurts her, whittles her down to nothing, makes sport of her pain, cages her. It goes on like that. So you can see this one's a little darker, a little more ominous, right?
Mhm.
I also have parts cards for qualities like awe or the cocoon, which is the impulse to like snuggle in and nourish yourself. So I want you to be creative as you're experiencing these and exploring them. They don't have to fit with a Jungian archetype, although they can. Just aspects of yourself that feel really dominant. And the more you explore certain parts, the more they will lead you to the excavation of other parts, right? You're like, oh, okay. Now that I know that part, I can see that these other three parts are related. And
Mhm.
maybe through time, there's an inner child part that has grown and changed because you've grown and changed. So you may end up creating more than one version of a part. I have several different inner children here. Some of them are wounded, some of them are playful, some of them are creative. And so if I'm ever doing inner child work in my personal therapy or in my own exploration, sometimes I'll pull all of the inner children out and I'll place them on the table and I'll just journal about all of them. And I'll even dialogue between them where it's like, hey, what are you doing here? And how can you support me? And why are you so scared? They all can talk to each other and it becomes like a family constellation of your internal aspects.
Very cool. So
Yeah.
I think, it goes really well with the podcast we just did this week
Mhm.
on all of this. So it's was good timing to be able to tie this in, I think, and help people get to that point where they can actually utilize some of what you told them without having to go see somebody and sort of, it's kind of like the do it yourself book.
Yeah. And also, I think when it comes to doing inner exploration, having a creative process can be really helpful. Like art therapy is so healing, it's so growth inspiring because it gets in the back door of your psyche in ways that just words alone don't. It lets you think in symbolism, in imagery, in color and shape. And in some ways, that can feel a lot safer to your psyche because you're not necessarily talking about the perpetrator, you're talking about the fox. So
Yeah.
it feel a little bit more creative and a little more disarming. So I invite you to just be creative and remember we all have this creative impulse inside of us. Oftentimes it gets shut down when we're very young and then we identify as, oh, I'm not an artist, I can't do this. So I want you to work that muscle and see if you can just go back to it.
Yeah, quick question. So when we doodle, because when I would be in a class or something, I'd doodle. I would tend to doodle the same things.
Mhm.
Does like art therapy, does that work with that as well? Looking at what do you tend to doodle? I always tended to be boxes. And I wondered, did that make me feel because I have an issue with freedom or
Well,
feeling lack of, you know?
yeah, I think so. I think we should do that for another one of our minis because we're kind of at the 11-minute.
Ooh, our cutoff. Bear with
But
us.
so
We're gonna
yeah,
get this
let's
one.
let's absolutely do another one on why we doodle and what we doodle. But for today, explore the parts cards and see if you can have some fun with it. If you have questions, DM me, email me. I'm happy to support your process as you explore parts cards as well. I'm totally accessible to you.
Yeah, and for everybody out there listening, I created a Facebook group called Everyday Epigenetics Raw, Real, Relatable Chat Group. It's on Facebook. You can search it right there and hop in there. It's a great way to interact with me, with Kate. I'm on there every day. Kate pops in when she can. It's to give us suggestions, tell us what you think of each episode, because the more feedback we get from you, the better the output of what we're giving is going to be. We're here to help you. And you may have questions coming off of our podcast that, God, I would love to know this. Pop in and ask us. If it's for one of the experts, can always reach out and get some clarity for them or bring them back on the program. So please go in, join the group, be interactive. You can be quiet if you want, but I would love you to be interactive in there. Get the chat rolling and give us some feedback. So thank you so much for joining us today. Get out there, make it an amazing day, and be your most authentic selves. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much for tuning into our podcast.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, we'd love for you to share it, leave a review or comment, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Help us get this information out to everyone who could benefit, and we'll keep bringing you the content you crave.
You can also check out our podcast site at everydayepigenetics.co and sign up for our newsletter to stay updated on upcoming episodes. The link is in the show notes.
If you're interested in DNA or epigenetic coaching with Susan, or Radiant Life Coaching for deep inner work with Kate, our contact info is in the show notes below.
Now go and make it a great day and let your most authentic self shine.